I think I was in the wrong. I think it is M20, isn't it? Let's see.
I'm trying to pick this chord functional analysis. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Page 138.
138.
Yeah.
Oh, that's way earlier than I am here. I'm way too far. Okay. Yes. Okay. So let's look at a few examples I say here as a jazz musician would view it. All right. So if we look at number 1, that's pretty easy to look at, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
2-5-1.
Yep.
Minor to dominant to major. Okay. Let's look at number 2. F major, D minor, G minor. Well, the D minor in this case is functioning as a 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
1-6-2-5-1. Number 3, by the way, well, those are not necessarily that tune specific. Number 3 is satin doll, actually. If you look at it, D minor, G7, okay, 2-5 and C, then E minor, A7. Well, that's a 2-5 and D. And that's how we're going to handle it. We're going to play in 2 sharps in that measure.
Okay.
And then we go back to C, 2-5, no sharps or flats. And then we go at 2-5 in the key of G flat.
Yeah. Okay.
And then finally we resolve to C as the 1 chord. That A flat minor, D flat 7 is actually a tritone substitution for G7. But I don't know if you know about the tritone sub. Do you know what a tritone substitution is?
I've heard of it, but I've never been able to like really fully wrap my mind around it.
Yeah.
So I've heard it mostly mentioned.
Okay, and you know what a tritone is, though?
Yes. Yeah.
3 whole tones, or an augmented 4th. So C, a tritone would be F sharp, right? Okay. It turns out that you can take a C7 chord as written in your chart, and you can substitute an F sharp dominant 7 chord for it. So in the place of the C7, we'll put an F sharp 7. Now, why does this work so well? And it works. There's a reason for this, and the jazz players have done a lot of it. Think about this. What are the key tones in a C7?
C7. It would be the 3rd and the 7th.
So the 3 is E, and the 7 is B flat. Okay, what are the key tones in an F sharp 7?
So the 7 would be an E flat, and an A sharp, right?
No, the 7 would be E.
E. Oh yeah, okay, E.
Because it would have been E sharp.
Yep, it would have been E.
And we flatted it, so now it's E natural.
Yep.
Okay, so it's E natural and
Right.
A sharp.
A sharp.
Right? A sharp's the 3rd.
Yep.
So on the C7, B flat is the 7th. On the F sharp 7, A sharp is the 3rd.
Okay.
Same pitch.
Right.
And the E is the 3rd on the C7, and the E is the 7 on the F sharp 7. Same pitch.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, this is really uncanny because this is the most distant relationship you can have, the most distant key relationship that's possible. Because if you go from C and you go around the circle and you get to F sharp, if you go any farther away, you're getting closer again.
Yeah.
You cannot get any farther away than the tritone.
Right.
And yet, isn't this amazing? The key tones are the same tones.
Yeah. That is fascinating.
And consequently, you can actually accompany most of the same melodies with a tritone away.
That's mind-blowing.
Here's the other part that's kind of mind-blowing. I'll have to go to the piano for you to hear this, I think. But well, you'd have to see this or else hear it. So I'm going to have to go play it, I think. But if I'm playing just the plain stuff that I'd usually play on a C7, and then I don't change a single note except I put the root in the F sharp instead of the C, I get all the altered notes. I get like sharp 5, sharp 9, stuff like that. If I have the altered notes on the C7, and then I switch to F sharp, I'll have the more natural vanilla notes, the more normal notes.
Wow.
And so if you were to actually play exactly the same notes and change the root by a tritone, you're just going to get all the cool colors.
That's cool.
Yeah. So let me play this for you real fast. I think you kind of have to hear this.
Yeah.
All right, so these are the notes I'd normally play on a G7. Now I'm going to keep all the top notes. And these are just plain notes, not altered. All I
Nice.
changed was the root.
Yeah.
So I can actually play exactly the same thing in my right hand and just change the root. And it's a cool new fresh sound.
Yeah. Very cool.
And in this case, we were doing which is really this substituted. So that A flat D flat is just a tritone substitution for the D minor G7. And I substituted the whole 2-5. I didn't do it. Duke Ellington did it.
Right.
Yeah. So here are the notes on the C7. Here are the notes on the F sharp 7. I didn't change them. I'm playing the same notes. The same notes with a different root.
Okay. Yeah. Very
That's
cool.
why the tritone substitution is such a big deal. Because it's cool sounding and it still works with the same melody notes. So you could throw the substitution in just about any time.
So, how long have jazz musicians been using the tritone substitution? I mean, is that something that was discovered at a certain era, or?
Ever since the 40s, ever since the bebop, yeah.
Yeah.
It still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so that's how I would look at that, and I'd be saying, oh, it's a tritone sub. Okay, let's look at number 4. E flat major. This is actually the tune called Groovin' High. Dizzy Gillespie. E flat's the 1 chord, and then you see 2-5 in the key of G. Wow. And then goes back to E flat, the 1 chord. You say, man, if you had to analyze that in E flat, how do you keep A minor and D7 in the key of E flat? That's just not going to be working. So I'm literally going to play on 3 flats in the first measure, 1 sharp in the second measure, and back to 3 flats in the third measure, and then I'm playing 1 flat on the next measure, and then I'm going to play on 2 flats on the 2 bars after that. So I'm going to be changing key signatures pretty rapidly.
Yeah, so cool.
Okay, number 5. Do you recognize this?
Well, it's the minor 2-5-1.
Yeah, 2-5-1 in minor. Number 6. And this, see, it just turns out to be 1-6-2-5-1 in minor. So the 6th chord can be half diminished in minor also, just like the 2 chord can.
Okay. It says next to it Locrian number 2. Is that just a different variation of?
Oh, yeah, actually Locrian sharp 2.
Okay.
Yes. I would do that there. I'll come back to that. Yeah, when we talk about teaching some other scales, so we'll come back to it. Okay, number 7. Now this one, so you're looking at F minor, B flat, E flat. Hey, that looks like a 2-5-1. F, B flat, E flat. Yep, the roots work, but the qualities don't. You got minor, minor, dominant. That's not going to be a 2-5-1. then you have to look a little bit bigger, a little broader spectrum, and say, oh, B flat, E flat, A flat, that's minor, dominant, major. There's a 2-5-1. It's in A flat.
Right.
Well, then how do you explain the F? The F minor. Well, it's functioning as a 6. And then you look at the D flat major, and there's nothing that modulates it to D flat. There's not a 5 or a 2-5 in a D flat. When you listen to it, it doesn't even sound like it changes keys. And then you realize, oh, it's a 4 chord in A flat. So this tune actually goes 6, 2, 5, 1, 4 in A flat. Now what I've illustrated, and then it does modulate. Then it goes to the key of C. This is actually a tune called All the Things You Are. The famous jazz tune, Jerome Kern. The thing I want to point out here is if the minor chord is not functioning as a 2, then Dorian isn't your best answer. I mean, we usually say, oh, minor chord, play a Dorian scale. Yeah. Why do we usually say that? Because it's usually a 2. But what if it's not? In this case, it's not, it's a 6. Therefore, the Dorian scale on F would sound wrong because the D natural on that F Dorian scale would not fit the prevailing key sound. And so you need an Aeolian scale, or the 6th mode, the natural minor, to make that color properly. Just like when you go to the 4 chord on the D flat, if you play a D flat major scale, you're going to have a G flat in there. And that G flat is not going to fit the prevailing key sound of A flat. So you use a Lydian scale, which has the G natural in it. Yeah. Lydian scale is a sharp 4. All right, so maybe this won't hit you like it should because we haven't maybe spent enough time. But look at it this way: if the chord is functioning as a 6th chord, use the 6th mode.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just thinking in my head.
Oh, good.
And then if it's functioning as a 4 chord, then you use the 4th mode. Right?
Use the 4th mode. Exactly.
So that makes sense.
It's so obvious that we never think of it, but there it is. Yeah. If it's a 1 chord, use the 1st mode. If it's a 5 chord, use the 5th mode. If it's a 2nd chord, use the 2nd mode. If it's a 3 chord, use the 3rd mode.
Yeah.
Just works.
But if you're just thinking, oh, it's minor, use Dorian, then you're gonna.
Yeah. Okay, look at number 8. C minor, F7, B flat major, E flat major. And again, you can almost take this as a principle that when you have 2 major chords in a row, the second one's probably functioning in the key of the first one. And therefore it's a 4 chord. So 2, 5, 1, 4. And since it's 4 in B flat, then we use the Lydian mode. So that's actually the beginning of Autumn Leaves.
Yeah.
Now look at the number 9. So we start with a minor to dominant, and the roots are in the circle, so we can say that's a 2-5. But it doesn't go to 1, just goes 2-5 in the key of E. And then we go to the next measure, and it's like, oh, kind of goes up to the 3 and 6 level, but it's really functioning in the key of F sharp, not E. But since it goes half diminished to altered dominant, oh, it's F sharp minor. It's a 2-5 in a minor key, in F sharp minor.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to 2-5 in E and resolves to E. Now, it's technically that's not a 3-6. It's not a 2-5, 3-6, 2-5-1 in technical terms. But if I'm remembering how a tune works, a lot of times I'll just call it that, knowing what I'm really saying to myself. That's okay, that's 2-5, 3-6, 2-5-1. But that 3-6 isn't literally a 3-6.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's because
the qualities are wrong.
The qualities don't match it.
Yeah, the quality structure isn't right for actual 3 and 6. Should have to be G sharp minor and C sharp minor. And then it would actually be a 3 and a 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, number 10. If I look at this, I realize, hey, I'm functioning in the key of C minor. I see C minor 7, then I see F minor, then I see D minor 7 flat 5, G7, C minor. Well, okay, this is the kind of thing you see in the fake book. What am I going to do as a jazz musician? I'm going to say, hey, I'm in C minor. I'm going to add the major 7 on that first chord and on the last chord because it's functioning as a tonic.
Yeah.
And the F minor then would be a 4 chord, which I have the option of adding the major 7 on that. I don't have to. And then the 2 5, okay, the 2 looks right because it's minor 7 flat 5, which is half diminished. The 5 doesn't look right because it's not altered. But you know you're doing a 2 5 1 in C minor. Therefore, I would go ahead and alter the G7 even though it doesn't say to.
Okay. Yeah.
You see what I'm doing?
Yeah. Yep.
In other words, I'm going to bring a certain amount to that that's not there because I can see what the context of it is and how it's functioning.
Yeah.
Okay, number 11. B flat major, B flat dominant, E flat major, A flat, B flat. Okay, this is actually the beginning of a tune called Cherokee. So I'm looking at that as I'm in the key of B flat. I'm on the 1 chord, but then I'm going to B flat dominant. Well, that's the 5 of the E flat, and then it goes to E flat, so it's like a 5-1. And I always have the option of altering on the 5. That option is just there. But then when I go to the A flat 7, you say, wait a minute, that's not the 5 of B flat. How did that get there? And this actually happens quite often in jazz progressions. So when I see that, then I'm going to say, I need to add the sharp 11. And that's always, you can take it as a principle that I always add the sharp 11. If the dominant chord is not functioning in its primary position, its natural habitat, I mean, that doesn't look like a 5 chord.
Right.
In reality, it's a substitution for the F7, which is the actual 5 chord. We've got a substitution in there. But because it's not functioning as its normal as self, now if it's functioning as a normal self, then I would consider putting sharp 5 or sharp 9 on it, or flat 9. Combinations of sharp and flat 9 and sharp 5. But if it's functioning in an odd way like that A flat 7 does right there, then sharp 11.
That's why you put the 5 question mark there, because it's a dominant chord, but it's not functioning as a 5 chord.
Right. So it's sort of in a weird position.
Right. And so when that, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So whenever you see that sort of like an isolated dominant chord,
Yeah.
then you would
Sharp 11 is what's going to sound right on it.
Okay.
And number 12 is the same issue if you look at it.
Okay, with the D7.
Are you going there yet to 12?
Yeah, 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna 12.
All right, so we're in C major, and then you see the 2-5-1 in C. So that's pretty obvious. But where's that D7 coming from?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, it's not really the 5 of anything nearby.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of in an odd position.
And then it goes to the D minor.
Sharp 11. Yeah. That's actually called Take the A Train, that one.
Okay. Yep.
Duke Ellington knew that. You got to put a sharp 11 if it's functioning in that kind of a way. And that's in the melody. Ba, ba, da, ba, ba, da. That note is the sharp 11 on that D.
Cool.
He actually put it in the melody. All right, so that's a little bit of chord analysis and how you might look at analyzing any given set of chords that you see in the fake book.
Yeah.
And maybe now to apply that, maybe we should look at something in the fake book real quick, where we look at the whole tune. Let me think a second. What?
We'll go grab it. My big book.
Okay. So when I'm analyzing a tune, if I'm looking at a major chord, my first thought is it's a 1.
Yeah.
But by context, maybe it's a 4. And
Uh-huh.
then my first thought, if I'm looking at a minor chord, is it's a 2. But
Uh,
it could be a 6, could be a 3, could even be a 1. And if we're in a minor key, it could be a 4. And then my first thought, if I'm looking at a dominant chord, is always that it's 5.
uh-huh.
However, if you're in a blues, it's 5, it's 4, it's 2, it's 6, it's 3, it's whatever. Dominant chord can function as a 1 in a blues.
Okay. So is that one of the, like a distinctive characteristic of the blues?
Yeah. Yeah, the dominant chord can function as a 1. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Or anything else, actually. That's unusual. Normally, you're saying it's going to be some kind of a 5 or a substitution for the 5. Going to be some kind of a, maybe it's a tritone sub, but it's still a dominant, it's still a 5 function, you know.
Yeah.
Now that tritone sub, by the way, they would call that what, a Neapolitan chord, because it would make it a flat 2, like D minor, D flat 7, sharp 11, sharp 9, sharp 5 to C major. You say, oh, that's like a Neapolitan. Well, a Neapolitan is a tritone substitution, is what it is. And some of those other French, like the French 6 and some of that kind of stuff, those things are actually better named in jazz. I mean, it's just a sharp 11. Play Lydian dominant on it.
Yeah, that seems like an easier way to do it.
Some years ago, we were hiring a new musicologist on the faculty, and I was on the search committee, and I went over to watch him teach a class, the music, whatever. It was the history. It was the more modern semester. It had Bartok. He was going over a Bartok string quartet in this music history class, and he points out in the cello line that there's this scale, this E flat, F, G, A natural, B flat, C, D flat. Now we have no name for this phenomenon, but it has, and it's like, come on, man, that's a Lydian dominant scale, We have names for that stuff. We have to use that stuff. We play with that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so in your fake book, let's just look at something. Maybe Felicidad. It's right at the beginning. If it's in your fake book, it's a Felicidad. It might be the very first thing or the second thing. It may not be in that book. I'm looking at the app.
Yeah.
You're not seeing it. Okay. Let's go to a different one.
No, let me
Uh,
see if I've got it
let's see.
in there. Felicidad. Antonio Carlos Jr.
You did find it?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. I'll go back to that then. I just grabbed it because it was at the beginning, but it doesn't matter. All right. The first chord we're looking at is F sharp minor. So you have to ask yourself, well, is that the key we're in? And then you look at the very ending. Oh, F sharp minor. That looks like we might be in the key of F sharp minor. But then you're looking at, oh, but is A major? The second section starts with A major. Looks like he's playing around with the difference between the relative minor and the relative major. F sharp minor and A major.
Yeah.
So once I establish in my mind that F sharp minor is functioning as a tonic, I'm going to put a major 7 on it. Then A major, it's functioning like a 1 in A major. C sharp minor, G sharp 7. Well, that's a 2-5 in F sharp. Then he does C sharp minor, F sharp 7, B minor, E7, goes to A. Oh, that's kind of like a 3-6-2-5 going to A. He's actually gone to the relative major there. C sharp minor, F sharp 7 is a 2-5 in the key of B. B minor, E7 is a 2-5, goes to its 1 in the key of A. Then you've got G sharp half diminished to C sharp 7 flat 9. Okay, there's our half diminished to altered dominant 2-5 in the key of F sharp. Say, oh yeah, 2-5-1 in F sharp goes to F sharp. Well, then I'm going to make the F sharp have a major 7 on it. Then E minor A7 D. Oh, okay, it modulated to D. E minor A7 D, 251 in D, and then it's got a B minor. That looks like a 6 in the key of D. It probably is functioning that way because it doesn't seem to relate to anything else around it. So I'd call it a 2516 in the key of D. And then you got 25 in the key of E, but it doesn't go to E. Interesting. 25 in E, but then it goes to F sharp minor, 251 and F sharp minor. So I would treat like I'm playing again tonic. You know what? I'd probably play that like I'm playing a tonic F sharp minor all the way through there. I mean, even though it has a B7, I'd probably play F sharp minor with a major 7. I keep playing the same stuff on the B7 because all that does is give you a sharp 11, and it works fine. And then I can keep doing it on the F sharp minor. Then I do the 251 in F sharp minor. Then I've got an E7. Wait a minute, where'd that come from? Probably a 5. Oh, yep, 5 of A major where it goes next. 5, 1. Then it goes to D7, and then back to A. What do we call that D7? Well, it's like a 5 chord, but it doesn't seem to be attached to anything. Right. Therefore, it's kind of in that secondary kind of position, and therefore I'd put a sharp 11 on it. D7 sharp 11. Then we go to D again, 251 in D major, and then 251 in A major, then 2-5 in C sharp minor, but when we get to C sharp minor, it becomes 2-5 in the key of B to 2-5 in the key of A. But then surprise, we go to F sharp minor. I guess it's like a surprise resolution, or what do you call that? A deceptive resolution. It's like a 2-5 in A, but then it goes to its relative minor. Goes to like the 6. And then I just handle the rest of it like it's in F sharp minor. But so that's a difficult tune to get your arms around. Yeah. And I just kind of gave you a way of how I would think about it a little bit if I was going to improvise on it.
Okay, cool. It's one of those things where I think it makes sense when I hear you say it, but I wonder, would I be able to come to the same conclusions as what I'm asking myself?
Yeah. And it takes experience.
Yeah, I think I just don't process it quite that fast yet. So.
Yeah. That's the major 7 sound. That's the major 7 sound again on that. Yeah, I didn't do that great. I've never played that tune, but anyway, kind of at least hear a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, that's a difficult tune. Most of the tunes you're going to look at, and most of the changes you're going to look at are not as difficult as that. You can probably figure most of them out fairly well. Just realize, okay, you've changed keys, and I want to play on a different key right here. I want to just not try to play on the same key over that.
Yeah.
You're seeing that, yeah. However, big band charts, here's something you need to know. The big band charts, they put a lot of, sometimes substitutions, a lot of information. I was sitting by Jory Woodis a while back. Did you ever know Jory? No, I guess he was before you. Anyway, I had him. I had hired him to play second alto in a big band thing we're doing. We had a minute to talk, and he said, "Have you ever noticed how big band charts, the changes are so obtuse?" He said, "Why do they have to make them so obtuse like that?" I said, well, I think it's because they try to give you all the information about what they're doing with the backgrounds and everything else. Frankly, it's more information than I need. And it looks hard. And so I have a kid come in with a big band chart, and we're trying to analyze the chord, and it's like, wait a minute, let's look at the real tune and how it actually works. And we get out the fake book and we look at the tune. It's like, oh, this is far simpler than it looks like in the big band chart. And so sometimes it's a good idea, and if you can find it. If it's based on any kind of a standard tune at all, your chart, it'll be in in your fake book probably, and then you can say, "Oh, I see how this is actually put together. Now I can see how they're doing some kind of interesting things they're trying to mess with, but I don't have to have my student think about it in that difficult way. We can think about it like it is in the
Yeah,
fake book."
simpler way, and it'll
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
And
And that's especially true of ballads. And you always have to have a ballad, you're featuring your ballad soloist, and you got this kid and he's floundering trying to read these changes and figure out what to do with this chart. Well, again, we talked about this. The best thing to do is probably have him play by ear with the real recording and just ear it out and figure it out and what he can do to sound good on it. But
right.
after he's done that, then I'd have him actually look at the chords and you say, wow, this is hard to look at. Let's look at it in the fake book. Oh, I see how this is structured, you know? And then he's got he's more armed to play on it. Sometimes it's really hard to see how it's structured when you're looking at the big band chart because they do so many change the roots, substitute. We got to reflect every background. I saw this is in a chart called Blues for Ross. The chord symbol said D7, sharp 9, flat 9, sharp 5, flat 5. It's like, wow, that's a hard looking chord symbol.
Yeah,
Well, the Superlocrian scale covers that, and I really don't need that much information. I think that he had the background was globbed up like that, and so he put it all there.
yeah,
But I don't need to know that because all I need to know is a sharp 9 chord, and I'm playing Superlocrian, and that covers all that anyway.
right. Yeah,
So if you see what I mean, yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.